What is going on, my little boglodites, my little BOGs, my little burgers?
Brain on Goggies.
Goggies! What's going on? Welcome to episode 10. We finally made it, guys. We're finally average. This is beautiful.
We have arrived.
Our part 2 of our Your Brain on Fear series. Yep. We decided to make it a little bit longer, but this episode is going to be talking about anxiety specifically and how fear manifests itself, forms itself as anxiety in our lives, gives you guys helpful tools to overcome anxiety, what's going on in your brain, and then practices to get over it. Super excited for this episode. You guys are going to love it. I just know it already. Make sure you subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Your Brain on God on Instagram. Enjoy the episode. Yeah, boy! Flavor Flav! Talk to you in whale this entire episode. Welcome to YBOG episode DS. Wait, is that Spanish? What is it? 9-10. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
10 Gola.
Double digits.
Digits.
Yo, one.
Let's just say that this episode is in binary. You know what I'm saying? Episode 10. 10001. If monkeys did binary, baby.
10110.
Dude, if I was to make an AI, it would definitely be a monkey AI.
Okay.
I'm glad you said that, Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just feel like you need to make a man's best. No, that's a dog.
Man's best friend? A monkey?
I feel like a monkey is the real man's best friend. Let's be honest.
I would like it to be.
I would like it to be. I wish monkeys were more common, and I wish you could have them, and I wish they didn't carry... I don't know. Do they carry diseases? Is that why you can't have a monkey, or are they just too expensive?
I think... I don't know. It's probably a few different reasons. Maybe because they might be harder to control.
Can you imagine a monkey?
You can have a monkey. I think you're allowed to.
I'm going to get a monkey, dude. That's my goal. It's on my bucket list.
If you get a chimpanzee, be careful, because they can be aggressive.
How do you know about chimpanzees, Daryl?
Bro.
You have too much experience with chimpanzees, huh?
Chimpanzees, yeah. Have you ever heard that? You heard about that time when there's a couple that had a chimpanzee, and the chimpanzee started wanting to be the dominant male in the house.
What?
Yeah. And it was like becoming aggressive towards the man.
No way.
Yeah, and aggressive. So when chimpanzees are like the dominant male in their troop,
they fight, don't they?
They'll fight for dominance. Mm-hmm. And they are the ones who get the women, like the females.
Wait. So you're saying the chimpanzee fell in love with the wife?
Basically became jealous. Legit. I think they had to put the chimpanzee down.
What?
Or they gave it away or something. But something happened where the chimpanzee became aggressive.
My gosh.
Yeah. They're strong too.
Oh yeah. Chimpanzees are crazy strong. That's a difference, right? The apes are not the same. Apes are different.
Apes are different.
A big ape.
Apes don't have tails as well. Just for any clarity. Anybody who needs clarity what the difference between an ape and a chimp is.
Hey, if you came into this episode...
An ape and a monkey, sorry. An ape and a monkey. Monkeys have tails, generally. Chimps, apes, gorillas. Right. Gorillas are apes as well. They don't have tails.
You know, I was in South Africa, and they got monkeys all over the resort that we were at. The resort, that sounds like it actually was pretty nice.
So it was a resort.
Yeah. We had a waterfall like in our backyard. It was awesome. But they had monkeys that would just come down onto the property, and they would just run, and they would sit by our food.
Would they steal stuff?
They would try and steal the food, yeah. But they had the brightest blue under parts. Yeah. That was like blue. They were like Easter eggs.
What?
They were crazy. Yeah, they were colorful. Gosh. Yeah, it looked like straight up like Easter. I was like, God, you just that part, huh?
Just that part. Wow.
You wanted to make him bright blue. Have you ever been alone in a crowded room?
Oh my
That's dark
gosh.
blue. But anyway, welcome to episode number 10 of YBOG, Your Brain on God.
Sorry,
We're so excited that you're here. Welcome to part 2 of our series, Your Brain on Fear. Originally, we were going to just do 2 parts, but we feel like fear is just such a broad topic, you know? Fear has broad shoulders.
It does. Or does it?
Or does it?
Or does it?
Actually, we try and stand on fear having broad shoulders, but it's got wimpy shoulders.
Maybe it wants us to think it has broad shoulders.
That is not a good protector. Fear is not a good shepherd, as your wife said last night while she was preaching. So we just feel like we had to expand it and we wanted to talk about the forms of fear this week. And then we realized there's so many different forms of fear. Fear manifests itself in so many different ways. We can't just do one episode in all of the different various ways that fear finds its form. And so we decided that to start out with a way that fear manifests out itself probably in the most often, I would say.
And very common
in anxiety.
Yeah. So last episode we talked about fear and kind of what's happening biologically within our brains and our bodies, and the trigger that gets set off where our amygdala kind of hijacks our brain and sends all these signals throughout our body, causes the stress hormones to go out into our body that make us more alert and ready to handle any kind of danger that there could be. It causes us to, our bodies slowly start focusing its energy on the things that are most important for surviving in that moment. So things like digestion and maybe certain, other functions of our body aren't as vital for that moment. And so it's not functioning as it normally would.
Right.
And so fear is good in that sense, where it stimulates these moments for us to be able to handle this potential threat, right? And anxiety is kind of prolonged fear. It's fear that is slowly still sitting there with us, right? And this constant, subtle alertness that we have inside of us, where these experiences that we get from that fear moment still stay with us a little bit.
Right.
So we still have that stress inside of our body where it's keeping us alert and ready for any kind of danger. And we're not maybe thinking as future focused as maybe we normally would be, because we're trying to survive right now. You know, like we're worried about all the potential dangers, and these moments of the thing that fear does in that is it changes our biochemistry, right? You know, and it's meant to be there for a moment because it's good for that. It's helpful for us to survive, but it wasn't meant and intended or helpful for it to stay in prolonged amounts. But with anxiety, that's what's happening.
Right.
Is there's more cortisol in our body often than is needed.
Right. We talked about, obviously the fight, flight, or freeze, where, your amygdala goes crazy. It tells your hypothalamus or whatever, and then, stores memories in the hippocampus and, got into the brain, of it or whatever. And it sends all those signals so that you can go into fight, flight, or you freeze there. Right. But then when you're just chilling out and you're watching a movie, and then all of a sudden your brain's like, there's danger, and it sends all of those, all that cortisol, all of those signals into your body. Now you're just trying to chill out, or you're trying to fall asleep, or you're trying to just be with a friend, or, you're just on a walk, but you're experiencing the exact same symptoms, maybe that's the wrong word, but the exact experience that you would if there was a saber-toothed tiger right in front of you that you had to run away from.
Right. Yeah.
But the problem is it's this your blood pressure heightens, your the stress hormone cortisol obviously goes and streams throughout all of your body. You have a rise in your heartbeat and your heart function. All of your blood goes to the core parts of your body so that you can just get out of the way. But when you're just sitting on the couch, it's almost like that energy or that all of those chemicals, they have nowhere to release. because you're not taking the fight. You're not taking the flight. You're not actually getting out of those chemicals. You're just sitting on the couch trying to watch a movie, or you're just hanging out with a friend, and then all of a sudden, all of this stuff wants to burst outside of you, but you have no release for it because you're just right there in the house.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where that uncomfortability of anxiety is you're not in a state to actually live out of that. You're just trying to chill out. And that's why anxiety is so annoying, right? Because it's like, I'm literally just sitting here, everyth's fine, but your brain is telling you that there's an immediate danger that needs to get taken care of. And it's a friend that comes over who stays a little too long.
Right. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to go to sleep, so
exactly. It's like, hey, you were good for when I was like for earlier, right? Where I had to, you know, get out of the way of that car or whatever, but now you're still with me and I'm trying to go to sleep and you need to go home.
Yeah.
Right? You need to leave. And so it's that unwelcome friend that keeps you in that state of being heightened. And that's a problem. It's annoying, you know, and it's bothersome. And obviously it has damaging effects on your body if you stay in that spot for too long.
Yeah. And all the adrenaline that's going in our bodies as well can be damaging.
Right.
That's why we like watching scary movies, I think, is because the burst that we experience, like biologically, the thing that's happening inside of us kind of feels good.
Right.
You know, like the adrenaline and like the little rush that we feel. And that is, that's part of our being. That's part of our nature to get that burst and that rush so we can survive and fight something off.
Right.
So, and in our modern times, we don't have the typical situation where we run into a saber-toothed tiger and then we just run from it, you know, or fight it off.
Right.
Or we're using all that energy and burning off all the stuff it's preparing us to do.
Right.
We can exert some kind of energy and effort, and it kind of helps burn those things away. Right. It washes them out of our body and out of our system.
Right. That's why working out is good if you're experiencing stress. You know, I mean, you're able to get some of that out, actually use the energy that it's filling you with to actually release that stuff that's being built up in your body. So
what do you do after you watch scary movies? You like push-ups or?
Scary movies don't bother me at all.
Scary movies.
They have not much effect on me, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you get scared of scary movies, maybe try to do some push-ups afterwards, sit-ups, go for a run. That might be good. I don't know.
That sounds terrible,
I don't watch a lot of scary movies.
That sounds terrible because if you watch a scary movie with like a killer and then you go on a run at night.
I know. You're probably going to be freaking out.
You're going to be freaking out.
You might as well have those zombie apps, you know, when you're running. You have like a zombie sounds inside of your ears.
I can't believe they actually have those apps. That's so funny.
I almost used it once when I was living in Australia. When I was wanting to start running more, I was like, this sounds fun.
They have these,
feel like I'm in a zombie apocalypse.
If you don't know, they have these apps where you can go on runs and it's literally zombie sounds that are in your ears. And I think if you slow down, right, they get louder and louder. They're chasing after you.
Well, that'll give you a burst of energy for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, it causes, you know, a bunch of different health effects. We were kind of, you know, researching beforehand and looking at all of the effects that cortisol actually, it has damaging effects, you know, on our actual bodies. I think we have some here.
So if you don't know, cortisol is often called the stress hormone. It's a regular part of our body's balance, and it has regular functions, but it's one of the primary things that gets released in moments of stress or moments of fear because of its functions. And so some of the things that it does, it keeps inflammation down, it regulates your blood pressure, increases your blood sugar, controls your sleep/wake cycle. It boosts energy so you can handle those moments of stress, and it restores balance afterwards. So some of it isn't necessarily good or bad, because it's a good thing to have healthy levels of cortisol in your body. And those small increases of cortisol, they give us that burst of energy, like we mentioned, a heightened alertness, a burst of increased immunity, actually, for that moment, and helps maintain balance within our body, right? So it's good in proportion. But the problem is whenever it lingers too long or there's too much of it and it's not getting out of our body, that's whenever it starts causing some damage. Right. And so, we looked up a few different things that happens when we have too much cortisol in our body. Our blood sugar imbalances starts to happen, and then it decreases our bone density.
Which is crazy.
It decreases in muscle tissue as well. Higher blood pressure, impaired cognitive performance It increases abdominal fat, lowered immunity and inflammatory responses in the body, slowed wound healing, and other health consequences. Suppressed thyroid function as well, and that is another part of balancing the hormones in our body.
Right.
So when it's a high level and it's prolonged, it actually can throw things off. Right. Because it's meant to help us in that moment, right? So it's not a bad thing. But when it's there for too long, it's that uninvited friend that's throwing off our sleep cycle.
Right.
Bringing over all the junk food.
Right.
And it's causing unhealth to happen inside of our body.
Right.
And so the more we sit with it, the more that it's present inside of us, the more damage that it continues to cause. I've heard someone bring the example of, working in an environment that doesn't feel safe, right? Which can be an experience for a lot of people. And whenever somebody's in an environment where they don't feel safe, whether it's work or home or whatever situation, if they're constantly going to that place, that environment, then they're constantly having those stressors, right? Constantly having those moments of fear. Am I going to keep my job? Am I going to do something wrong? Is my boss going to be mad at me? Is something going to happen at home, or my parents going to be really upset and freak out, or are my kids going to go crazy because of that? And if we're living in this place of constant stress, we're constantly getting those levels of stress hormones inside of our body, right? The cortisol. And it's harder for us to have moments of cleansing and moments of restoring balance to our body so we can think properly again, we can relax and enjoy the moment, and also strengthen our immune system, because being in that constant state of stress every day, we spend so much of our week at work or at home, right? And if those places are sources of stress, that can be actually damaging to our physical health, because of what's going on, right? It's that like mind-body connection. The things that we're thinking about and worrying us has a physical effect on our body, And whenever we are constantly, in those places, it's hard for us to not be stressed out, unless we can change something about what we're doing or the way we're thinking or the environment that we're in.
Right. Yeah, that happened to me. I was working at Starbucks, and it became the most associated place with fear. I don't know. It was like I loved my job working at Starbucks for, probably a year or so. And then we got a new manager, and she started putting all this these heavy burdens on us. And she started changing everything up. It was just kind of poor leadership, to be honest. She came in, and the first things that she was doing, she just started changing everything on us. And it stressed a lot of us out. Actually, probably after 6 months, there was only 3 of the remaining people left there.
Wow.
After she came in, which I think says something about your leadership if everybody leaves as soon as you come in. But we're not on leadership. But anyway, she came in, and it became such a stressful environment. And then my entire workplace was associated with stress. So the place that actually was a place of enjoyment where I actually liked working, it became all about the new rules that she put in. If you did something wrong, she would go after you on it, even though she didn't really build relationships with us before she, would talk to us about those things, or change stuff up on us. And instead of getting to know us, she would just started implementing all of these new things and basically told us that we were doing everything wrong. Right. And so everyone was feeling this place of stress, and then it became this perfectionistic environment where it was associated with stress. So I started hating going to work, and it actually made my work so much less productive. Right? Because when I was in a healthy spot of being actually able to liking work, doing things well, even if I would make mistakes, it was fine, because we just had a great manager who was like, oh, just do it this way next time, you're chilling, So I actually loved going to work, and I was good at my job, right? And then this started to happen. I started getting really, really stressed at work, and stress is exhausting. Yeah. It's when you are living in a heightened state all the time, and your mind is it's on constant high alert. It's sending adrenaline throughout your body. Your muscles aren't made for that, right? Your heart's not made for that. And that's why, stress can even cause, the panic attacks or heartaches or just crazy stuff like that, is because we're not made to live in that heightened reality all the time. But I felt like when I was going there, I would remain and live at that heightened reality. Yeah. And then that just caused just so many problems. in my own mind. It totally like cut out the fun. I was unhealthy, and eventually I had to switch stores because it got so bad because it was so stressful. And then eventually I just had to quit altogether because it was like, too much. Yeah, it was crazy. But there is like, there is something to be said about living in that, that heightened place all the time. I don't think that's what God intended for us, to live into, like to actually, we talked about this. This is the third time we talked about from working from a place of rest rather than working for rest, right? Yeah. To have that space where you're actually in calm, where you're actually working from a place where you feel, oh, I'm good. And, and that's just in the workplace, but that's all over the place. I believe, God wants us to bring us into a place where that is not our experience. He obviously made cortisol, in us so that we could defend against ourselves, fight, flight, those types of things, but not so we can live in that state.
Not living in the stress.
Right.
Yeah. But in our day and time, it seems like it's so easy for us to be stressed by different things, different stressors that are around us on the road, whether we're at home or at work or somewhere in between. It's like, right. We can go to the grocery store and not be able to find the thing we're looking for. And that could be like, oh, wait, what the heck? What's going on?
Right.
Or, the lines are really long. We're in a rush trying to get somewhere. We could have a moment of stress. And there's little moments throughout the days that really can start this dripping of stress inside of our body. Right. That can be damaging to us. Mm-hmm. And some of those health problems, I don't know if I saw you looked at the list, but I don't know if you want to read those off. Or,
they're crazy. Increase the long-term activation of the stress response system, and overexposure to cortisol can cause, obviously, anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, memory and concentration impairment. All of those things.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because we don't really think about what's going on inside of our body, whenever we feel stressed.
Right.
We're not really thinking about, all the different hormones that are happening or not happening, all the different like processes going on inside of our thought life or our brain, and all the signals that are being sent to our muscles and to our digestive system or to our heart rate, all the automated systems inside of our body with our breathing and our blood levels or whatever. We don't think about that stuff, but we're constantly being affected by things, Those are constantly changing depending on the environment we're in. Mm-hmm. And as long as we are not aware of those things and also not actively trying to do something to help, in these situations, I feel like it's much more likely for these things to start taking place, anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, heart disease, sleep problems. And it
makes me never want to be stressed ever again.
Like, wait, this is what stress could do to me?
It's terrible.
It's like, I don't want to be stressed.
Right.
There is, just in America, there's 1 in 5 people who struggle with a constant anxiety. Right. 1 in 5. That's pretty frequent. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. Who every year there's 1 in 5 people who are struggling with anxiety.
Yeah. I think it's at 40 million.
Yeah. Right. And those are people that they know about, how many people are struggling with anxiety that aren't really aware that that's what's happening or never went to somebody to get it checked or talked about, And it said that out of all those people, only 37% were actually getting treatment for it. Right. But it is a very treatable thing. Like there are things and practices that people can do, and whether it's seeing a counselor or a therapist or just putting different practices in place, it is treatable. That's and this is, I don't remember the name of the website. It was something that was pretty official. It was like anxiety.org. But it was it was about the American Association of Psychology or something.
Right.
But it was talking about how it is treatable, but there's not many people, only 30-something%, like a third of the people are going to actually have treatment, which means everyone else, the other 2/3 are just suffering with it, and trying to deal with it.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that comes down to a couple of things. One, I think we're not very aware of what's going on inside of us as well, and that stress has become such a normal thing that we think it's how it's gonna be,
Right.
You know,
we just accept it.
Yeah, we just accept it. And so we kind of settle into this place of, you know what, I have an anxiety disorder. And you see it rising, especially in this generation. I mean, I do youth, so I see it all the time. Kids experience anxiety and they immediately jump to the conclusion, man, I just have anxiety. It's like an immediate acceptance, and almost it's kind of weird. It's on the weird side of that is it's almost cool to say that. It's like mental illness has become almost like a buzzword to say in our culture, where it's like, I have anxiety, or I have OCD, or I have depression, or whatever. I take these. It's like it's a part of who I am, which is weird. So we just kind of accept that that's the way it is. I remember being in when I was in college, we would get to the finals week, and the week before finals week was called Dead Week. I don't know if you had that in college, but it was basically where everyone was studying, and so everybody called it Dead Week. And I was like, why are we calling it Dead Week? Why don't we start calling it Alive Week? I'm like, I'm still alive. I'm still doing good. Jesus is still sitting on the throne. Like, I'm solid. Like, why are we calling this? We were like self-fulfilling a prophecy that this week was going to be garbage. And I was like, so I just started calling it Alive Week. Everyone was like, how's your Dead Week? I was like, I'm fully alive. What I mean? And I probably sounded like one of those, cocky guys or whatever, but I really just genuinely didn't want to allow that. But it was this acceptance on my college campus, and I went to a private Christian university, that anxiety was just normal. This week's going to suck. I'm going to feel dead this week. I'm going to be so stressed out because of all the papers that I have to write, because of all the things I do, because of all the responsibilities I have. That's just how it is. Now that, and I would even, when I was, in college, would talk to other people, and then it would be like, well, you talk to me about stress once you have more responsibility, And I'm sure there's some merit to that, because they did have more responsibility at the time than me. But still, why are we settling for such a lower experience of life, to live in that fight or flight mode, to live in and to not seek practices that actually, man, my body's not meant for this. Why would I live for this?
Yeah, that's interesting that we have that kind of a thought. Responsibility equals stress.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't have responsibility, you don't have stress.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because you can have people who do have a lot of responsibility and aren't stressed, right? Mm-hmm. And you can have people who don't have a lot of responsibility but are still very stressed.
Right.
And it's not really about necessarily the amount of responsibility that we have, even though, yes, the responsibilities that we have to carry out often do come with some sense of stress, because it's
some sense of weight.
Yeah, some kind of weight that needs to be accomplished. But there are people who exist and live, who have responsibility, yet are not being weighed down by stress.
Right.
They're not being defined by stress,
which
leads me to believe that it's possible
right.
to not have anxiety and stress when we have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy to know what that looks like.
Right.
Or, I don't know what that looks like, or how to get there. And I know that there's, there are things that we can do to practice and change the way that we believe and our perception of things, and changing the way we view things, and also the practical aspects, of the way that we live our life that can help with those.
Right.
But I think we trap ourselves if we do claim that statement, that responsibility equals stress.
Right.
If we do align ourselves with that belief, we trap ourselves into stress and anxiety anytime we take on responsibility.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge thing. I think it's a lot of our stress is a lot of the reasons we enter into those things is we allow what's outside to come on the inside as well. Because stress, anxiety, it's a very internal thing. Right? Yeah. Inside your own head, inside your own body. And so oftentimes we do base it on that, because it's like circumstances, our situations, our workload or whatever, all of those things weighed on top of each other. It produces this, it produces stress on the inside, and then we get in those fight or flight moments, especially with responsibility, because we think wrongly, I believe, that if I don't get stressed about this, nothing's going to get done.
Right.
Yeah. If I don't worry about this, then I'm not going to complete it on time. That's why you get stressed in school, because you have so much. It's usually the mixture of time and how much work you have to do.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, I have so much work to do in this week. Right.
Yeah.
And so then you get stressed, which leads to you using your time even more poorly. So then you like don't really space it out. So then you get even more stress than you have with all of those different responsibilities. And you usually, procrastinate or fill it out at the last second or whatever, all because of that stress. It's it sucks. Yeah. But we allow those outside things to determine an internal well-being. Right. And it's all your mind. I was reading even, it was like, some therapists wrongly just say to people, hey, it's all in your mind and like downplay people's anxiety. But then it also is saying, but that is actually true, Right. Stress it's completely in your head. It's the way that you're seeing. It's the perspective that you have about your life, about your responsibilities, about what you have to do, what time you have to do it, what the pressure that you're putting on yourself to finish those things and those, in that certain amount of time to set those certain amount of goals to, that heaviness all comes from what we produce right here between the ears, right. And so it's about not allowing those external things to start shaping those internal things, but start to move in ways that shape the internal so that the external can be changed, so that our actual experience of life can be different in peace.
Yeah, that's good. Pressure is perceived, it's like, it's the way that we view it. Right. The thing that's going to cause stress on us, whether or not we actually have it. It's about the view that we are taking.
Right.
But there is also the real experience of the even like we talked about last time with the amygdala having the initial reaction, right?
Right.
And that initial reaction of the amygdala hijacking our brain causes us to see something a certain way as a threat. Right. So maybe even before we have the chance to think, is this worth stressing about, or is this worth feeling all this pressure over?
Right.
Where our innate reaction is like, firstly, to stress over it.
Right.
And it's the trying to catch it before it happens, or practice and reworking and rewiring our brain to not have such an extreme response.
Right.
I think is where it starts.
Right.
Is in those moments of, oh my gosh, what's going on? And trying to catch it before that happens, or as soon as it happens, right?
Right.
And trying to reestablish that the whole connection between our brain, right? Enacting our entire brain in the process, not just living out of the amygdala or the part that's trying to keep us to survive and be alive.
Right.
But really engaging the fullness of thought, and being present and being back into the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you have to tell yourself that you're going to make it. That you're alive, because it's the trigger that immediately gets sent off that hijacks your ability to perceive something, and then it makes what you perceive, it makes that even heavier, and then you act accordingly to that based on what you see.
And then we will look for the danger, right? If we think it's going to be bad, we have that initial experience where we start getting afraid or having some kind of stress or anxiety, and then we look for things to fit that narrative that there's danger, right? Something bad is going to happen, and I've heard the same analogy multiple times this week of whenever we are in a moment of being afraid or having anxiety or having fear, and then we're talking about something scary, and then we off into the corner of our eye, there's a chair, and we look over and it looks like there's a person sitting in it. We turn the light on and it's just a coat hanging over, or a towel draped over the chair.
Yeah.
But we immediately think, that's the danger. That's the danger I was worried about. That's the thing I was afraid of.
Right.
And these moments of fear trigger that automatic response, right? Where we suddenly create a story that something bad is going to happen. Then we start looking around for the things to fill our story.
Right.
To fill the gaps in the story. Right. Yeah. See, that's the bad thing. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing.
Right.
Which feeds the fear and the stress and the anxiety.
Right.
And if we can, in a moment, stop and question that story, right? Hold on. Is this story actually true that I'm telling?
Right.
Or is this just based on my fear? Am I just afraid of something happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to do that is a big part of being able to stop that cycle.
Right.
Oh, what story am I telling myself?
Right.
And what things am I trying to make fit that story that maybe don't need to fit this story?
Right. It's almost like anxiety blinds you from seeing things the way that they are.
Yeah.
And that's what the fear in the closet is, right? You see, a hanger with like a jacket on and it's hanging over and you're like, you got to turn on the light and you got to pay attention to it, because you think that somebody's in your room or whatever. But it's really the fear has already created an idea inside your mind about what is there or what could be there.
Yeah.
Right? More often than not, you think what could be there and you make what could be there the reality of what is there, even if it's not there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So anxiety creates all of these realities that aren't actually realities.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so dangerous to live from that place of anxiety as well, because you're operating okay, I think I said this to you before. If I experience you in anxiety, I'm not experiencing you.
Right. Yeah, you have said that.
Yeah. So if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm anxious, I'm not experiencing Daryl. I'm experiencing Daryl through the lens of my anxiety.
Right.
And my anxiety changes everything about you.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
It changes how you might be saying something towards me. It changes the meaning behind the words that you're saying to me. It changes how present I am with you in that moment. It distorts the image that I have of you because I'm viewing you through anxiety. Right. And so anxiety, it does that same thing. And I think that's living from that reptilian brain as well and not actually seeing things through the way they are, because it clouds your vision from seeing the outside world as it is. Hey, everything's actually okay right now. Right now, we're in the podcast studio and we're chilling out.
Right.
I'm fine. But in my mind, it's like, is the camera going off right now? Did I even press record? Is this, is this going to be a good podcast? Are we doing well? And I'm, it's like, you could be totally outside the moment. And then I could be experiencing this podcast through a completely different reality than the reality I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's a thief.
Yes.
Anxiety it's a thief when you continue to remain in that heightened cortisol space. It clouds your vision. It clouds your mind from being able to see clearly. And that becomes very dangerous when you start building your relationships and your beliefs around that space of anxiety, because I've noticed most often anxiety feels a lot more real sometimes even than truth and reality. So if anxiety is showing me the truth, I can start gathering together beliefs and I can get the truths in my brain from that anxiety rather than from the way things actually are, which can break apart so many different things. Yeah. It's totally dangerous. It's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. While you were talking, I was reminded of that same type of thing. I was thinking about how in our relationships, how much it causes us to reinterpret what people say, right? Or reinterpret even what I say. So, when I'm getting anxious about something that I've said, I'm like rerunning it in my mind thinking, okay, how could they have taken that? Would they have taken it like this? Maybe they thought I meant this. Maybe I should have said this instead, and worried and scared that something was wrong, even if there was no actual evidence that something was wrong, just the potential that something could be wrong. Right? Or worried about what if this person is thinking this about me? What if they think, that I'm not good enough or that I shouldn't be doing this thing or I'm not the right person or, I don't fit this. And I can think about those things. And what helped me a few weeks ago when I was in the middle of doing this, like having this process, those things, okay, maybe they're true, but I actually don't have much reason to believe that that's true.
Right.
Based on reality, like what has actually happened.
Yeah.
What they've said nothing for me to think that that's what they're thinking. Right. They've done nothing for me to think that that's how they see me. So why am I worried about this? Right. I want to live in the reality that I know is, things that I know that are true. I'm not going to live in a possible reality. I want to live in the reality. And if it's different than what I think it is, okay, then I'll start living in that reality once I know that that's the way it is.
Right.
But it's a waste of my energy, a waste of my time to be consuming my thoughts with the possibilities of it being different than what it is.
Right. Yeah. And that's what anxiety does. It causes you to live in a dream world.
Right.
You know,
nightmare dream world.
A nightmare dream world, yeah, where everything is a constant danger, where everything is a possible, what if this happens? What if this goes south? And it causes you to think negatively.
Yeah.
And then the things that you are even perceiving, you're starting to pick out the negative things because that's what you're looking for to confirm the fear that you already have about the situation.
Exactly.
So that you end up confirming all of these negative beliefs rather than, if I'm actually seeing things as they are, I can say, oh, the evidence actually says that they're not doing that at all. So I don't need to believe that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't need to step into that possible what if, you know, and it doesn't do any good. You know, something that really helped me with anxiety is that it's just not beneficial at all. It's not beneficial, and I think we've talked about this. You're, auditioning for a play, and you get all scared, and you think if you get anxious enough, you might do a better job, but it just makes you do worse,
Right.
Or it's like you go in anxious to a job interview. You're not going to be your full self.
Mm-hmm.
If I go up to preach and I'm feeling really worried and anxious about it, I'm not going to be as confident. I'm actually not going to deliver it as well as I
Right.
want to deliver it. So my very anxiety that I'm using to try and be better at something is keeping me from being my full potential at something, right? And those keep holding on to those perceptions or those perceived realities that are unrealities, right? Or possibilities. It actually prevents me from experiencing life as it fully is. And that comes back again to the fact that anxiety is such a robber,
Yeah.
But we hold on to it. We hold on to it because, like we talked about, the amygdala wants to protect us. We want to go into this fight or flight. And if we feel like, oh, I need to hold on to anxiety because in some way it's protecting me. It's keeping me safe, and it's making sure that I don't make the wrong decisions. It's making sure that I do the hard work needed for that presentation, or that I study my lines enough to the point where I don't forget them, even if it causes me to forget them. I want to be anxious about about these things,
Yeah.
So it comes back to the taking a good hard look at, okay, what are you doing right now, brain?
Right.
To separate yourself a little bit from your thoughts, I would say a lot of it from your thoughts about what your brain is perceiving as a danger around you, taking a step back and saying, okay, do I actually need to be afraid of this right now? Can I sit in this and actually see this for actually how it is, like you did with your friends? It's like, well, they haven't given me actually any evidence. So now the feeling's still there, but I have the truth to make it through that feeling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if I was going into an interview and I really wanted to get the job.
Right.
In that moment, I can start getting anxious that I'm not going to get the job.
Right.
Right. The only reason why I would have anxiety is because I'm worried about not getting the job. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have anxiety about getting the job unless I thought I'm going to get the job and not be good enough for the job.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I could have anxiety in that case too.
Yeah.
But either way, the interview is going to be the interview.
Right.
Right. And if I could just let go of all the possible things that I'm afraid of might happen.
Right.
I'll show up to the interview. I'll do the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll react to the reality when it happens.
Right.
Right. Rather than carrying the possible future reality with me into the present.
Right.
Right. Trying to bring that fear of losing the job or being discovered as not being worth having the job or not getting the interview. If I can just let that go and think, okay, well, if that happens, I'll deal with it when it happens.
Right.
Right. And then I'll go into the interview and be more calm, And I whenever I was in Australia and not auditioning, but going to an interview, I remember thinking that in a group interview, I was thinking, I'm not going to interview well in a group interview.
Right.
But there's no point in me worried about not interviewing well in it. I'm just going to go there and do my best.
Right.
Because me worrying about it isn't going to add anything to it.
No.
I think we mentioned this last time. Jesus said, worrying does not add a stature to your life. It's not going to add a minute to your life.
No.
Worrying doesn't add anything to your life.
It's useless.
Yeah, it's useless. And so if I go into that interview worrying about somebody else doing better than me or somebody else, outshining me, or me being my turn to talk and not knowing what to say, or because last time I did a group interview, it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. If I have all those thoughts going into my mind in that moment in the interview, it wouldn't make a difference if I was thinking about those things or not. Mm-hmm. Meaning I'm going to go in there and it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to do how you're going to do.
I'm going to do how I'm going to do.
Right,
and the results are going to be what they will.
Right.
And me worrying about it being wrong isn't going to help me be any better.
Right.
I just need to go in there and be my best self.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it, then I could feel that pain whenever it comes.
Right.
But I'm not going to worry about not getting it when I haven't come to that place yet.
Right.
Because that's only going to take away from my ability to actually be there and do well.
Right. Because anxiety has to do with control.
Yeah. It's a way for us. We're trying to preemptively experience our fear, right? So we think it's going to impact us less. We think that if we are mentally prepared and already live in the reality before the reality happens, it won't hurt as much.
Right.
You know, if I assume I'm going to be disappointing to people and I feel that disappointment, you know, already, then whenever I actually disappoint them, I won't be disappointed. You know, I won't be let down. It won't hurt as much for some reason.
I won't be as disappointed because I've already felt it. I've already dealt with the pain. And
I've already dealt with the pain. Yeah. It's like we're trying to plan ahead for the pain.
Right.
We're planning our future based on the pain we're expecting to experience.
Jeez.
Not on the joy that we're expecting to experience, right?
Right.
When we think about all the joy we want to experience and try to plan for that, it doesn't cause pain. It doesn't cause anxiety, but excitement.
Yeah.
When we plan for joy, we're excited about it.
Right.
When we plan for pain, we get anxious.
Right. Yeah.
And the more we plan to experience these different pains in our life through work or relationships or personal disappointments, the more we're going to be in anxiety about it.
Right.
But if we're planning for joy and we're wanting joy and we're wanting to experience good things or planning to experience good things, we're more likely to be excited about the day.
Right. Because you get what you're looking for.
Yeah. And we'll be more likely to see the thing we're looking for. Right. We'll be more likely to see the joy in the relationship or at work rather than see the pain or see the hurt that we're expecting to get. Right. We get what we're looking for.
Right.
And I know that we want to often, when we think about the possible good, sometimes our first reaction is, but what if it doesn't happen?
Right.
Right. And then we start planning for the pain.
Right.
Well, if it doesn't happen, then it's going to be like this. It'll be like this. It'll be like this.
Right.
Rather than what if it does happen?
Right.
Then how am I going to respond? What will I do if it's good?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. You know? It's like we have to be, I think part of the process is being okay with pain.
Yeah.
Just accepting it because pain's going to happen.
Right.
The more we try to avoid it, the more we're going to find it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. It's such this, I don't know if it's an unwritten rule of law of life, you know, or something, but it is. The more you try and avoid, the more you resist. And that's a huge thing with anxiety too. The more you resist it, the more you experience it. Like the more you try and fight your own anxiety, good luck. It becomes bigger and bigger.
Right.
The moment that I started actually getting free from anxiety is the moment I said, bring it on.
Yeah.
Right. Where I woke up, because what happens is you start experiencing anxiety and then you start getting anxiety about having anxiety. Because then you're afraid of being afraid, or you're anxious about being anxious. So I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be fine. Good morning, world. And then I would think to myself, what if I get anxious today? And then I'd be like, ooh, anxious.
And then you're anxious about getting anxious.
And then I'd be anxious about getting anxious, and that would make me anxious. Right? It's because we have this, and I think that's the real rewiring that we need to focus on and going out to our brain is that we're looking for pain before it even comes. Yep. It's like this foreboding joy, almost this shame that Brene Brown talks about in her book, where it's like we're just expecting for things to go wrong, and so we don't actually enjoy the present moment or see things as they really are because we're waiting for the pin to drop, we're waiting for the other shoe to fall, or whatever the saying is. I just start making up stuff. We're waiting for the other iguana to turn a different color, and
we're waiting for the noodle to get soft.
So we're waiting. Yeah, we're waiting for something bad to happen, and it takes us out of the moment of the current reality, and then allows us to experience the pain before it actually is. I love that what you said, Daryl, so much is that we are trying to experience the pain before it happens.
Yeah.
Because we're afraid of experiencing the pain for real. So if I can experience it and already be thinking, I'm not going to get the job. What if I don't get the job? What if I don't get the job? When I don't get the job, I'll be like, well, I didn't get the job. I already kind of had that feeling about it that I wasn't going to get the job, and you end up creating a reality that you actually don't want for yourself, but it's easier when that reality comes.
Yeah, and we settle for something so much less than what we can actually have.
So much less, and there's nothing good about it. Can I just say
because we're gonna if it happens, we're gonna experience the pain then, right? So why are we trying to experience the pain now?
Right.
If I don't get the job, I'll experience the pain when that happens.
Right.
Me experiencing the pain now and then not getting the job and then experiencing the pain again.
Right.
It doesn't change anything.
Right.
If I get it and I experience the pain, I'll experience the pain.
Right.
But why do I want to experience the pain right now before it's even happened?
Right.
Because then I'm going to experience even more pain.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be open to pain if you want to be open to hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be open to those things. It helps with anxiety so much to say, you know what? If it does happen, it does happen. One of my favorite stories is Radshak, Meshach, and Abednego. Come on now, we go preachy now. Radshak, Meshach, and Abednego in the Bible, in the book of Daniel. And basically King Nebuchadnezzar builds this giant gold statue of himself. He's an egotistical maniac, and he wants to make all of the Israelite people in Babylon bow to him. And then these three guys, Radshak, Meshach, and Abednego, they say, hey, listen, homie, we're not going to bow to you, Nebi. And Nebi's like, well, I'm going to toss you in the fire. If you don't bow to me, you have one more chance, or I'm going to throw you in this fire. And what they say to him is like, we believe that God will deliver us from this fire. We're not going to bow to you. But then they say something really powerful. They say, but even if he doesn't, we're still not going to bow to you. And that sticks with me so much is to have an even if it doesn't mentality, even if God doesn't, even if things don't, even if the job I wanted, I don't get, even if, something does happen with my family, even if it does, I'm still not going to bow to anxiety. I'm still not going to use anxiety as a tool, on my tool belt. I'm going to accept life fully as it comes and deal with the pain as the pain comes. Yeah. And you can't run away from pain in your life anyway. It's going to happen. And that's a promise in Scripture, a promise just in the experience of life. You're going to experience. If you haven't yet, please let us know how.
Haven't experienced pain yet. Oh, geez, get ready.
Yeah. But get ready. No, don't wait for the pin to drop. You're great. You're great.
Yeah,
but you're going to experience pain in your life. So there is this almost beautiful calming in knowing I'm going to suffer. And I don't need to worry about suffering when it comes. I'm going to feel it. And keeping you present in that moment. I'm going to feel it. But it takes out suffering. And I think it's actually like I don't know. I don't think it's just necessarily like a Buddhist principle, but like about like the absence of the desire, almost like the absence of like, just the embrace of life. That's not just Buddhist. Yeah, that's Jesus, man. Yeah, the embrace of life in its fullness. When you let yourself go, when you let yourself experience all of those things, those trials, and what they end up doing too is they end up actually killing all the wrong things in you too. So actually going through those trials is good as well. So it's
being present,
in
just accepting the present. As it is, not to settle for it, but just to accept that it is what it is,
right?
And then go from there,
right? Yeah.
There was I was watching a video talking about the benefits of meditation, and it was talking about antidepressants and therapy and in relation to depression and anxiety, and people who practice meditation experience better results. Than people who are on meds or going to therapy. If it was a combination of the different things, it was the most helpful. But meditation made a really big difference. So they found in their study. Because through meditation and the practice of mindfulness, which is what, kind of a buzzword nowadays, but the practice of just being present, right? Being right now in the moment. And learning to let go of thoughts, being separating yourself from thoughts, being able to differentiate between you and the thoughts that come into your mind. It's like thoughts can come and then you can let them go, and that's what meditation is about. Trying to be present in the moment of what's going on there. And they did an experiment with people who practiced meditation and people who didn't, and their pain tolerance.
Right. You told me about this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they had them hold like this rod, and it would heat up, and they would tell them to hold on as long as they can. Right. They're trying to see how long they can experience the pain. Mm-hmm. Right. How much pain can they take? And the group that practiced meditation held on to the rod longer, mm-hmm. because they were fully experiencing the pain, and they went up until the point where they could not take it anymore, right? Where they knew this is as long as I can go. I can't take any more pain. The group that didn't practice mindfulness and being present in meditation, they let go in anticipation of the pain getting worse. Right. Yeah, so they did not even reach the limit of what pain they can take, because they were anticipating it getting worse, so they let it go. Right. So they let go of the thing before the pain even got there, mm-hmm. because they were expecting it to become worse. Right. When the people who practice being present were able to experience more pain and be okay, because they were just living in the moment. You know, they were experiencing the pain right there when it was happening. Right. Rather than anticipating it getting worse and so backing out.
Right. I used to do that with running. I know that's different than experiencing a pain from a metal rod, but I started running. I actually hate running. I don't run now, but I wanted to do it for a little bit, you know. And I started running, and at first I was like thinking about the finish line, you know, mm-hmm. getting back home, and I would run and be thinking about, I'm almost there, you know what I mean? I got one more block left, or I got 2 more blocks left, or I got half a mile left, or whatever. And then I started changing my mindset about running, and instead of focusing on the finish line, I actually just focused on where I was at. You know, I actually embraced just actually being present while I was running, and kind of, looking at where I was running, and almost even feeling my body while I was running. And it changed the experience of running for me. I wasn't because then I wasn't running to be done. I was running and enjoying from what I could enjoy of running. I was enjoying the present moment of running, which made me a faster and a better runner, I feel, because I wasn't waiting for the finish line where I could be like, oh, okay, finally I'm done running, but I was enjoying it in the moment, and that comes again back to the anxiety principle of not anticipating those things, but being present in the pain. And then that being present in the pain, it kind of does with the anxiety, hears you, and the anxiety goes like this, and it kind of lines you up with where you're actually at, and then you start seeing things for that, where they actually are, right? Because anxiety is like out here somewhere, you know what I mean? It's like, in our world, it's like, this could go wrong and this could go wrong. But when you open yourself up to experience the fullness of life, which is the reality of life, and some of it is pain, right? The anxiety comes right before you, and then you can experience life, but you don't have to experience it like where it's in the future or where it's somewhere else.
Right, experience life right here.
Right, experience life right here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe we just say a couple things before we're done about just practices that our boggies can do.
One of them is a very practical thing that you don't need anything for except lungs. And that's breathing exercises.
Yeah, breathing's good.
So I've seen that multiple times and ways of trying to be present, one, and then also calming our body down and regaining control of our breathing. Mm-hmm. Taking slow, deep breaths in and out, holding in our breath, and even feeling it inside of our lungs and our body. And then letting it go and feeling how that affects our body, feeling the air leave our body. And breathing exercises, taking moments, a minute, even 30 seconds, just to stop and to practice breathing. Sounds funny to say practice breathing. We've been practicing our whole life, right? Right. But practice breathing in a way that is controlled and intentional and brings you back into the moment. Right. Yeah. Exercise is another one. Like we mentioned, the hormones in our body are, when we are experiencing stress and anxiety, kind of can get out of whack. Right. Exercise helps bring some hormones back into our body that balance those stress hormones out. Right. Yeah. So exercise is good. It brings back the things in our body that bring back confidence and energizes us, actually.
Right.
This seems like an oxymoron, but whenever we exercise, our body releases hormones that actually give us energy for the rest of the day. And so practicing exercise, breathing exercises, physical exercise, meditation, and just mindfulness and being present.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those. I think it's a big thing of learning what really matters as well. Like I think it comes back to some of the values as well, and letting go of control, which I think is a slow process, you know? And I think all those things help, like the breathing, because oftentimes we just think that we need to think about everything.
Right.
When I've realized, and I've really been in these states of mindfulness or in flow state or just with Jesus, and I'm just enjoying him, I realize that 95%, maybe 99% of my thoughts are garbage. You know, it's like put them in the waste bucket, press delete. You know, I don't need, or maybe they're not garbage, they just are, and I don't need to think about them in that moment. And I think the greatest addiction that we have is not an addiction, you know, to drugs or an addiction to sex in our culture. I think it's an addiction to thinking. You know, an addiction, a particular
way of thinking,
a particular way of thinking, and a fearful thinking. We're addicted to negative thinking. You know, we've created pathways, and there's a reason that we anticipate negativity, that we anticipate, you know, bad things to come to us. It's because of the wounding that we've had in our lives that doesn't come from just anywhere, you know? So that also takes it also takes a good deep dive into the roots of your own wounds, you know, because if anxiety is protection, what are you trying to armor up against?
Right? I think that is a key as well, is identifying what is actually causing the fear.
Right. Yeah. What's actually causing the anxiety? Because if say, you know, I'm scared of not getting this job. Well, why am I scared of not getting this job? What would it mean for me personally if I didn't get this job? Is that a hit against me? Am I fearful that says something about me if I don't get this job? Am I fearful of what other people how other people will see me if I don't get this job? Am I feeling lack because I don't have enough money and that's why I need this job? All of those things can play into the anxiety of getting or not getting a job. So uncovering those roots as well, and then I would say finding foundation in Jesus in those places. You know, I don't need to be in lack in my mind about money. I don't need to get validation from other people or have them see me as a person, and this job doesn't mean that I'm enough, you know? So you start uncovering these truths, especially found in Scripture, that allow you to live free from those things, and that settles down the anxiety as well. So because you start knowing the roots of some of these fears and some of these protection systems that you're building, and the reason why you're already living into fear. Maybe you just, you know, you're afraid that you're going to be a failure, so you're already thinking, you know, I might fail this interview and stuff. So coming back to those places, that comes back to awareness, you know, mindfulness. I don't know if I like the word mindfulness, but because it's really, you don't need anything in your mind. Just thoughtlessness is almost better sometimes, you know, to enter a state of like, I'm good.
Just be present.
Being present with that. So all of those things, you know, there's practical ways, and then there's more meditation ways, and then Jesus ways.
And
which all go together. They're not like mutually exclusive or something.
Right.
You can work out with Jesus.
Work
Get
out with
swole with Jesus.
Journaling as well can be a helpful practice. I think even sitting with Jesus and asking, what do you think about this? You know, what do you think about me? What do you think about this situation? What are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts for this. And journaling, you know, journaling what you feel Jesus is saying to you. And journaling the things that come to mind. And
that's a good way to get what's inside of you outside of you. And that's a big problem with anxiety too, is it becomes so internal, and then you don't express it outwardly that you can't see it for what it is because it's all jumbled up in your brain. So journaling is a helpful tool to actually see, what do I actually feel about this? What am I actually afraid of?
Yeah.
What is God actually saying, so that you can see it more linear rather than in a noodle soup inside of your mind, a crazy volcano of thoughts. You can see it more laid out, and then that can help you think more logically about what you're thinking.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you for joining Your Brain on God. Make sure you guys subscribe to our iTunes podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Your Brain on God on Instagram. Okay, you guys are awesome. Thank you for joining in on this part 2 of our series on fear, Your Brain on Fear. We're going to be sending out a couple more of these, thinking through what we feel the Lord wants us to talk about in different aspects of the forms of fear. So thanks for joining this episode. We love you.
We love you.
We are
yes.
farmers. Bump, ba-dum, bump, 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 bump. Love you guys. Peace out. Yeah.